Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about Windows Labs policies, how we can create that policy, as well as what are the different ways we can create the policy to deploy across the Windows. But before that, I would like to give you a context about the Labs policy. So what is Labs policy? The Labs policy is a solution across the Intune, as well as which is been enabled and activated from Microsoft Enter ID, right? So by enabling this policy, you can deploy a local administrator account on each of the endpoints across the tenant. So how you can do that? So there are some prerequisites. The prerequisites are something like Windows devices should be latest patched. So the devices which are uh, Intune joined or domain joined devices, those should have Windows 10 and 11 with the latest patches. So at least it is recommended that you should have a latest patches so that it is going to work on those devices, right? And whatever the configurations that you are going to make, that is definitely would be deployed based on the policy. How you can deploy this policy, as well as we are going to see what are the different ways to deploy that policy and what is the recommended by Microsoft as well, right? So I'm going to show you how you can create a policy and how you can deploy that. But before that, there's one more catch here, which is each Windows device which has a local administrator account and which is in default state, which is disabled. And in most of the cases and many of the scenarios, we don't want that account to be used as administrator account on each endpoint. So what does that mean is, if you see a local administrator account on your device, which is administrator, which is a part of administrators group, right? And that is when that account gets the full permission of the device. It has a complete privilege to do all the steps or all the stuff on the devices. That means as soon as it has a credentials and the account is active, that account can do anything. Even it can break anything on the device. It can do any changes that they wanted to. In case that account is in wrong hands, account and credentials, that means whoever has those credentials, they can do anything on it, right? And that is when it is recommended, and it is good way for us, or we as IT pros, we should have another approach to deploy our own account through Intune. And by deploying that account, we can make sure that account is part of our each endpoint administrators group, so that that account gets the administrator privileges to perform any admin tasks, be it remotely or in physical environment, right? So I'll show you how you can create a local account deployment policy first, because we don't want default account needs to be used for this labs policy, right? And that is when I'm going to create the separate policy for local admin account deployment first, and then I'm going to show you how you can create labs policy in two different ways, and what is recommended and what would work as expected, right? So let's go back here. So here is the uh, policy which I have already created, but I'm going to showcase it to you again. So this is a device configuration profile from the Intune side, and so here are two different OMI URI set OMA URI set to each of these policies. So I'm going to show you by editing it, and also I'm going to create the same so that you have confidence on it. So let's go back here and then go back under devices, then configuration profiles, then new policy, and from here it should be Windows 10, and later from here you can select the templates, and this template should be custom, right? So here you can give it a name, local admin. So description can be anything that you wanted to give, and from here you need to put the OMA URI settings that we have seen. So here I'm going to just give it something similar, but definitely you can give it anything that you wanted to give as per your requirement, right? And so here this is the OMA URI. You can see it has the complete CSP address, which is showing up accounts, then users, then local admin, and then password, right? And then next is the string value. So what should be the string value? So string value can be anything that you wanted to give, right? So this is just an example I'm putting here, but you can give it anything which is unique and strong enough for your organization or your use case, right? Next is to add the integer value. So next value is going to add this account into the administrator group. So I'm going to give it a name, then description here. Again, I'm going to pick up this OMA URI from here and then put it here. So here I can see a complete OMA URI along with details. So how I wanted to deploy this one. And then I'm going to select the data type, which is integer, and then I'm going to put it to 2. Why 2? Because the 2 is the true value, and if it is 1, then this is not going to be created as well as active on the administrator group. So that is why we need to put the 2 here and save this. So now we have both the OMA URI set here, and you can click next. So here is the assignment tab where we have to put or select a group where we wanted to deploy this policy for testing purpose. So we can either select a group or all users or all devices. And the most important thing and the part of this is to understand the context of the deployment policy or the way of deployment, right? So here we have to deploy this policy on the device context. Even if you are trying to assign this policy only to get 5 devices or 10 or whatever it is, be it for a testing purpose only, but still you got to select a device group here only and not the users group, right? And as soon as you select the device group, you should be able to deploy that policy to respective group, and that policy should be deployed and work as expected. Next is applicability rules, which has the different options here. You can see specify how to apply this policy, this profile within an assigned group. Intune will only apply the profile to devices that meet the combined criteria of these rules. So this means that if you set any rule here, and only those respective group of devices will be assigned to this policy. Even if you assign 100 devices group, and if those are not matching any of these rules, then it is not going to work, right? So for example, assign profile if OS edition is something, any of these, let's say Windows 10 11 enterprise. So this is the one rule that I have set up. If the device or the Windows operating system value is set to this one, Windows 10 11 price, that means this rule is going to match with that particular device, and then only this rule will apply and this policy will be applied on it. So for now I'm not going to make this rule here, but I'm showing it here as a step so that you know I should apply these rules and what is the real use case. So I'm discarding this here and then click next. So here's the review plus create view, which is a complete summary of our policy. So here it is going to showcase the complete summary, what is the configuration pro settings that we have put in, the number of groups included and excluded groups here, and the applicability rules, right? So currently I haven't applied this to any of group of users or devices, so it is showing no results here, and I am going to create it. So this policy would be created. All right, so this has been created. Now we saw that this policy is been created now, and here you can see this policy is created with this name, with the custom profile type, policy type, with today's date, right? And yeah, this is it for local account or local admin account deployment. So you might be wondering, where do we put the name of the local admin accounts, right? I'll show you that again here, and I want you to notice that and understand that. That is why I didn't mention that, but now I'm going to show you here. So under the OMA URI, you will put something like this. So this could be anything. I just put local admin, but you can put anything that you wanted to put, as for example your company name as something XYZ, then you can put admin, right? So this is going to be the admin account that would be deployed on the each of the endpoints where this policy is going to be deployed. So you need to put the same account on both of these policies. So it is not just for one, but you need to put it on both the policies so that this account is being deployed successfully and is a part of local administrators users group, and it gets the full permissions on this account. All right, yeah, so this is it for this local admin policy. Now we'll jump on to the labs policy. So for labs policy, I'll show you how you can create two different policies. One is from Windows configuration profile and one is from uh, endpoint security, right? So let's go back here and let's scroll down. Let's click on Windows configuration profiles. Then I'll create new policy, right? Next should be Windows 10 and later, then templates, then administrative templates, then create. So get a name. This should be a labs by config profile. So I'm just giving this name so that we can understand and easy to identify. Click next. Here you need to select or search for labs. Okay, and me search this out here. LAPS. Oh, last moment. Let me go back. Since it is not popping up, let me create it again. Windows 10 and then setting catalog. Give it a name. You can put the description, whatever you want. And yep, so here we need to select labs or search for labs. So this is administrative template and labs. So this was not a Windows administrative template. Instead, it is configuration settings catalog. So here are the bunch of options that we wanted to set and configure, right? So here you can see different options, and all of those options are available. So here you can set password days. So default is 30 days. Complexity can be selected any of these, but this is better to make sure password is complex enough and is not something easy to guess, right? Then name of the administrator account that you wanted to, let's say I have put an XYZ admin, right? So this account would be deployed on the each of the endpoints. Then enable local admin password management. Yes, this is needed because this is going to make sure the password is managed through Intune. And the next option is do not allow password expiration time longer than required by the policy. So this is something that's going to set the, it is not going to set the password expiration as per policy longer than as per this policy timeline. Right, so this is the labs policy deployed through configuration profile by setting up using the settings catalog. Then here is the next button. Here again you can define the scope of this policy, how you wanted to default or target this policy based on the scoped devices or groups, right? Then next option is to assign the group or the devices. So you can define which group to apply this policy and then test it. Next is the summary view. Here you will see the administrative templates under the configuration settings and then the whole set here along with the administrator account name, and then create. So this policy will be created and you can see it here. So just to refresh, yep, so here it is. So this is the policy, which is a type of settings catalog and it's created. So we can assign it to a group of devices, a group of users, and then test it. So not the users, but on the device context. All right. So now another way we wanted to deploy the policy using endpoint security. And that is why we wanted to make sure that policy is applied and is working as expected. But I would suggest you to utilize Azure's endpoint security method to deploy the labs policy because that is the recommended way. And here you can see I have created already a policy, but I'm going to show you how you can create a brand new and separate policy so that you know this policy very well, as well as you can deploy it across the fleet, right? So create a policy here, then select the Windows 10 and later, So here are different options. So you need to select local admin password solution, Windows Labs. So here it gives a bit of description about the Windows Labs, and it mentions that Windows local admin password solution is Windows feature that automatically manages and backs up the password of local administrator account on your Azure AD joined or Windows Server AD joined devices, right? So it works on both environments. If you have pure cloud environment and if you have hybrid environment, then also it is going to work, right? So you can deploy this way. So currently we are just deploying it for Azure AD joint devices, and we will do it some other day for hybrid environment with Windows Server AD joint devices, right? So give it a name. I'll give it a name like labs by via endpoint security, so we can remember it and it's easy to know and understand. So next here we can see the labs tab, and under labs tab we see bunch of options, right? So first option is backup directory, where we wanted to back up our passwords, right? So passwords would be backed up on Azure AD as well as other options we can see. So disable, that means passwords will not be backed up at all. So there is no storage or password won't be stored anywhere in the cloud environment. So backup password to Azure AD only. That means this is going to back up the passwords on only in Azure AD environment or Entra ID, which is renamed, right? So that is the one. And the third option is backup the password to Active Directory only. So there are three different options. One is disabled, so no backup at all. Azure AD only, that means it's pure cloud environment. And the last is backup the password to AD, that means the local AD, which is AD server, which is Active Directory server in hybrid scenarios. And the last option is not configured. So not configured is a default option, and that is not going to set or enable backup of the directory. So I'm going to select second option, which is backup the password to Azure AD only. Then password age days, I'm going to set this to enable, and here again you can see the 30 days is the default time period. To rotate the password, so we can make it to, let's say, 10 days as well, and we can set it to maybe 15 days or more, or maybe more than 30 days, right? So it totally depends on the each company as well as their security and all those policies that they wanted to manage, right? The next option is administrator account name, right? We have seen that, and we have put the XYZ admin account name in our configuration profile earlier. So similarly, here also we can put similar, or we can give any name. Let's say XYZ admin 1, right? So this would be the admin account name and would be part of local administrators group and would have the administrator permissions on it, right? So this is the name that is going to be deployed. But yeah, make sure that this name and the name that you are going to deploy through local administrator policy, both names should be the same, so that this account would be a part of local administrator group and become a local admin on each endpoint, right? So you need to keep both the accounts or the administrator account names same, and that is when it is going to be admin on the device. The next is password complexity. We can see the bunch of options here as well, including letters only, letters plus, large plus small letters, large, small, and numbers, large, small numbers and special characters, and large, small numbers, special characters, and with improved reliability. And the last is not configured. So it is better to set the more complex way, so that whatever the passwords Intune is generating or the Windows Labs policy is creating, those are strong enough and unique each time, and it's not easy to guess, and nobody should be able to access it for unintentional work, right? The password length here we can set, so 14 is the default one. We saw that in our previous policy as well, but we can set it to, let's say, 14 or maybe 16, right? It totally depends on the policy or guide policy or the company wide policy, how we wanted to keep the password length, whether it is 8 characters or more, right? And the next options are post authentication actions. So after authentication actions, what should be the actions that we wanted to perform? So there are 3 actions we can see. First is reset password. Upon expiry of the grace period, the managed account password will be reset. Reset password and log off the managed account upon expiry of the grace period, and managed account password will be reset, and any interactive logon session using the managed account will be terminated. And the last is reset password and reboot. Upon expiry of the grace period, the managed account password will be reset and the managed device will be immediately rebooted. So these are the different options here we can see, right? And yeah, so I'm going to set the first one, and post authentication reset delay. So after authentication, how soon we wanted to delay the password reset? So this is in hours, the number of hours we put in here, so it is going to make that effect. So 24 hours is the default time period, and yep, so we can make it to, let's say, 14 hours, and yep, that's it. So this is the whole policy together here, and then next, then scope is not going to be set. Here we can set to all devices or the number of devices by selecting group. Then next, and yep, so this is review plus create, and then create the policy, right? So meantime the policy is being created. Yep, the policy is created here, and yep, so that is it about this policy. So I have shown you 2 different policies. One is via configuration profile for labs, Windows Labs, and one is via endpoint security. And the first policy about deploying the local administrator account, right? So that is also a policy to deploy the local administrator account on the devices. All right. So yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you liked it, and yeah, let me know if any comments. And yep, so please like, share, and subscribe to the video and channel. Yep, thanks for watching.